they named Washington, D.C. after George Washington. I was like, oh no. I'm not, you can tell I'm Canadian now, so. So I think we're live now. People can, you'll see the attendee thing start to rack up there. And you have your chat open. If you want to open up your chat and participate in there, there's a host and panelist, which is just us. And then there's an everyone. I would probably just switch it to everyone. And that way, if somebody wants like a link to something, or you just get bored listening to something and you want to answer people's questions or whatever, you can do that. So, but by default, it just chats to us. So you do have to switch it to everyone. We'll kind of tell people that too when they jump in there. This is exciting. I've been looking forward to this, and I think it's gonna be fun.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Donna and I are now connected on LinkedIn. Just wanted to make that announcement to the to the group.
One of my favorite LinkedIn things is seeing like who else the two of you are, connected.
I'm in DC. I'm at the Smart Cities Connect conference, and I did that with somebody. We connected on LinkedIn, and then we like went through all of our connections and just like talked about like, do you really know this person and how do you know them? And it was actually really fun to do that. So I don't know if you needed we didn't really need an icebreaker. Like I'm sure we would have found other stuff to talk about, but anyway, it was fun. And Angelique, I will connect with you on LinkedIn as well. If you're on there, Vasana, same, didn't intend to leave anybody out of the.
No worries.
Vasana, you're not on LinkedIn, are you?
She's not. I tried. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not. Sorry, slacking.
She's like a Dallas 3-on-1 lifer. She's like Joe. It's just like she's stuck in the bunker forever. Speaking of Joe.
He's having trouble logging in, but I just resent him the link, so he's working on it.
Okay. There he is. Right on time. 5 minutes to spare. Whew. Making our grid here symmetrical. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I was just having a little bit of difficulty right there, but I think I've got it figured out. Appreciate the help.
And not everybody got to meet Vasana. Vasana, everybody.
Hello.
I'll do some proper intros here in a couple minutes, but. Anybody know any good jokes?
None of mine are good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, even if I knew some, I tell them terribly. So
I got one for you. Where do bad rainbows go?
I don't know. Where do they go?
To prism.
Oh.
It's just a light sentence.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
What's your joke for today?
That's good.
Yep. It's passable. It's like a pass. The kids get it. I have 7 kids, so they expect me to bring something home every day.
All right. My jokes all take like too long to tell.
Oh, okay.
I don't have
shaggy dog jokes.
I have like a bunch of talking dog jokes. They're pretty good.
It's great. Well, maybe if we have time at the end, if everything dies out, we'll do a shaggy dog joke. Everybody know what they're wearing for Halloween? You got your stuff all picked out?
Just got it on.
Don't say that about your.
I'm pretending to be a normal functioning professional adult for,
Yeah, that's right.
for Halloween.
Great, Jeff. My kids are all, they've got their Mandalorian and Black Panther and all, they got all the stuff. Fortnite already.
What are the age ranges, Micah?
13, 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, and 1.
Wow.
So,
You have a whole crew going out.
yes, actually, I'm going to share I know this is bad, but I'm going to share my screen for a second. We just got family pictures taken on Saturday. Can you see that okay?
Oh my goodness, beautiful.
So it was,
Wow.
Dude, so cute.
And the girl is the oldest.
she's the second oldest.
Yeah, she's
Oh, that's
outnumbered,
true.
that's
Okay, I
for sure.
see.
My 13-year-old is almost taller than me. He's right on that. Like a month from now, he'll probably be staring down at me.
Oh,
Wow.
That's the gang.
That was a great picture.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, those boys are probably gonna get bossed.
Yeah, we tried for another girl, and obviously it didn't pan out very well. We tried. Lord knows we tried. I think we're close for those panel attendees joining in. Welcome. I'd love for everyone to, in your chat, just open it up and then switch it to everyone if it's not set that way for you. And then for everybody joining, if you want to just give us a shout out, maybe what company you're from or what place you're from, or your favorite sports team or your favorite color, whatever you want to do there, and give us a little shout out. Go Twins. That's Minnesota, but all right, we got some Chargers. There's Tim from Juxta. We got some Nova Scotia's a sister province up here in Canada. Okay, Giants. Interesting. Could be
Put a question mark there, just
just to cover your bases, eh?
sort of like,
Okay, Cowboys. I started watching college football because I bought some college football NFTs. I have no idea what I'm doing. And all of a sudden I'm watching college football games. So go Longhorns. Right, Fasana? Bajan Robinson. I'm going for one Ethereum. Let's go. Anybody got any NFTs yet? No.
I just
Come on.
figured out what the acronym stands for. So
Okay.
yeah. You'll have to explain offline. I don't really.
Digital trading cards that you can't steal from somebody. So that's
I know. I still just don't completely get it.
I'll send you a video. Actually, there was one video I watched like a million, and he was a mathematician, and he explained how blockchain works in a way that I got it.
Mhm.
Once I got it, I was like, oh shoot, this is the future. Like this is like a solid platform for building everything off of. So there's guys pushing really hard on, like, it's going to be how you buy a ticket stub to get into a sports game, a dance concert, a ballet. Like it's basically going to become the fabric of how you have something that you prove that you should be able to get in, VIP clubs, restaurants, sort of you name it. So it's a pretty, the next 5 years should be really interesting. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Jenna, what do you think? Do you think we should call it, or do you give people 3 more minutes to get off their last meeting that somebody was talking too long on?
I think you're probably good to start here soon. We have 28 attendees in, so looking like we're good.
All right, well, let's do it then. So I want to welcome everybody to this fun webinar that we're doing today. Thank you for joining. spending your time with us. Hopefully you brought a bag lunch or, something like that, so that we're not interrupting something really important in your day. But I think this is going to be great. And we're really excited to have these folks with me. I'm going to quickly introduce everybody, if that's okay. And then our first order of business is we're talking about procedure flow and its impact on 311 utilities and city. And Vasana has been generous enough to actually show us their own flows live, not abstracted. And so you're going to get to see a real life instance of these flows in production. So before we get to that, just some intros. So here with me today, we have a really great crew. The first person I want to mention is Donna Franklin she's the CEO of Turnkey Solutions. And this is Turnkey's down in Atlanta. They have a nationally recognized consultancy. And there was a description that I really liked where it said, want to change the face of government around the world and help citizens have the best possible experience with those governments. And I see Jeff shaking his head. He's passionate about that too. So anything you want to say, Donna, about you have just a decorated career. She's Princeton's Lean Six Sigma black belt ninja. Volunteer, helping out pastors at churches, and just been involved with sales, smart, strategic. Anything you want to add in there?
I think is there anything I don't do after that introduction?
Yeah, well, maybe not.
So,
You
got it.
Thank you for being with us. And she's
Thank
all
you.
about city and 311. Have Joe Villarreal with us. He's with LA Water, which is arguably the largest utility, water outfit organization in the world. LA, of course, has a very unique water position where they have to get water from other places and help millions of people, stay hydrated and power as well. And so you're a lifer there, right? Like 24 years at LA.
Absolutely. Worked my way through the ranks, started off as a meter reader. I'm currently the assistant director over employee development. So definitely know it from soup to nuts.
Yeah. And I have here basically just operational beast, like branch, field, clerical, employee development, training and safety, big thinker. You're the executive director. You've worked your way up to that, very thoughtful and tons of experience. So it's really an honor to have you here with us, Joe.
Thank you.
We have Angelique Murray with us as well. And Angelique works with Donna and is one of the consultants that's really hands-on, getting the work done, process, curriculum development, change management, dance instructor, tap dancing, running all kinds of health and wellness programs. So thanks for being here with us as well. And we have Jeff Friedman from AWS. Procedure Flow sits on AWS. We love being an AWS customer. We've looked at all kinds of different options, and they keep just bringing innovations to the game that allow our development team to focus on what they're really good at, which is building features, and then taking things that we don't want to worry about from an infrastructure perspective and just taking all that headache away. And so it's a joy to have you here with us. Jeff is if you go to his Twitter, he's just like a super, super passionate city guy. He has no car, electric bikes, green, lean, vegan machine. I was going to say vegetarian, but and just really, really loves city. And he has the longest LinkedIn profile I've ever seen. So he's pretty much everywhere, done everything, worked in government, city, Philadelphia, and consultancy, sort of you name it. And now helping AWS help government basically be more agile and more innovative. Is that right, Jeff?
I don't think I could say it any better. Yeah, thanks. I'm blushing a little bit, but thank you.
I'll write that up and email it to you so you can add it in there.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And then Vasana is with us here. Vasana Moran is with Dallas 311. Very treasured place in our heart with Procedure Flow because they've been a long-standing customer. They wanted to solve some problems, and they took a risk on us when we were smaller, and So they've worked with us for a long time, done a lot of really cool stuff, and just we've been down there and hung out, and good friends, gone out for dinner, all that good stuff. And Visana is another, I think, a sort of a lifer. You've worked public private, but you've been spent most of your time since 2005 at Dallas 311, and you are the workforce and training manager, but really all things about running ops for the call center and developing curriculum and solving problems and productivity and everything. So that's about right, Visana?
That's right. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes.
All right. So that's the crew. And let's go over. Visana, do you want to share your screen with us? Our panel will be back. We're going to have some conversation, ask some questions about what's going on in the industry and just different thoughts there. We're going to start out with this as a conversation starter, just so for those that have never seen procedure flow before or want to see it in action, this is your opportunity to do that. I would say, just introing this, that there's kind of three aspects you want to pay attention to as Visana is going through. The first is how you navigate through your procedures versus reading linear documents and paragraphs of text. And so how do you break it up so it's more consumable? There's that change management. How do you keep it up to date? How do you notify people of change? And there's the reporting aspect that this gives you as well. So Visana, why don't you take it away and just give us a little bit of flavor of context of, before procedure flow, and then, how you use procedure flow today and what it means to your team there.
Okay, so before procedure flow, we have a lot of agents that make several errors. So errors were really high. We had agents that had paper everywhere, so they would print a document, keep it on their desk. Well, then that person would retire, or that information is old, and so we'd have to figure out, how do I get that new updated information? Long hold times. Long training times, excuse me. Our 301 class would take about 8 weeks to train. It's over 400 SRs. So we've really tapered that down quite a bit using procedure flow.
Awesome. Yeah, and then maybe you probably have a couple of examples you can take us through in terms of the way that we think about this type of documentation is per call, right? Like somebody calls in with a specific kind of question, and then we want to help the agent as quickly as possible. You call them SRs, but they're like call types essentially, or different types of service requests. And not only do you have to go from intent to procedure, but you then have to capture that in the correct place in the system, right?
Correct. So we could follow down the tree here. The citizen calls in. Do they speak a different language? If so, you need to click on that button to get us through that language. It goes through the greeting. And then it breaks it down by what are they calling for. Our heavy hitters right now is up here in the pink. The departments, we take a lot of calls for different departments. So you have 311, courts, auto, water. So essentially, if they're calling 311, let's see what 311 has to offer. What department are they calling about? I know they're calling about code compliance, but I don't remember what SR that is, what service request that is. But I can click on code, and it's going to give you a quick rundown of all the code SRs. Now, once you see it, it'll probably trigger your memory and be like, oh, that's what they're talking about. But let's just say I want to go to code concern. It gives you a quick, synopsis of what the code concern is, and then what SRs are actually falling under code concern. So it gives a pretty extensive list without having to take, 5-6 minutes. It was probably, I don't know, I didn't time it, but less than a minute, I would say, to get through to all of this.
Right. That's awesome. And do you want to go one step further and just kind of look at one of those types just as an endpoint?
Let's see. Go back.
It's kind of like a Hansel and Gretel trail, basically, like from intent to procedure. It's like, are there probing questions? Do we want to ask? Do we want to lay out this into different buckets? Do we want to alphabetize sort of some subgroupings underneath of that? And as much as possible, like help to create that trail that the agent can find the thing that they need.
So we just implemented a new software. We'll go to this one. And so we had to make sure that our agents knew how to log into each one of the new aspects. So we have Jabber, we have Finesse, and then we also have Calabrio. So we try to include, if they're trying to log into Calabrio, you just click on the link. Hopefully, if this works right, you would go right to the Calabrio website. So we try to make everything self-sufficient to where it's just a click away. If you look at the screenshot, you should see the exact same screenshot. So everything is just a point and a click, depending on what they want to do. Jabber is going to give you directions on how to initiate Jabber by clicking the link and walking you through exactly how to change the settings. Can you log in? No. Make sure you're resetting Jabber. Yes. Can the customer hear you? So it breaks it down into all sorts of ways that we can help the the call taker get to the right place.
Awesome.
Does that answer the question, Micah?
Yeah. Do you want to go back to your other environment there? So what she's done here is there's different entry points or groupings of flows. So if you have different projects or you have different departments or roles, you can carve those up, add different members to them. Do you want to talk a little bit about change, like how does it work from there's something new to getting everybody aware of that?
So my trainers have access to this procedure flow as well. And we give our call takers in training the ability to edit flows. So they would just go into draft mode, make an edit. Once they do, they'll save it, and I will get an approval up here. It'll say 1 or 2 or 3. And it'll tell me what the change is before to what they want to change it to. And once I hit that approval, it's going to go ahead and go into live. So changing information is really, really quick. If I change it, if an agent goes in and changes it now, I hit approve and it's done. There's no back and forth with it unless I don't like something that I'll say, please change this. But as soon as you hit approve on your current change, it will take effect in the current flow that you currently have.
You want to drop into your change history there and just maybe show us an example or two of that notification hitting. So for most of our customers, Vasana is not on the floor taking the calls, but for them, they would see in the change history there an icon coming up saying, hey, there's a new change that you need to review. So they can click on that, and then it'll bring up a side-by-side comparison of what has changed within that change. And so this one here was just a deletion of something that was empty. But if you go down to one of the green, that one's an example of a side-by-side. So there's something that they can go in a review that's changed. They do that in the morning, maybe at lunchtime, in the evening, and that keeps them basically up to date. So the two things together, like the agents themselves can spot a mistake, make a quick change, submit it up, they can get approved, and then everybody gets signaled, notified, and that basically you can keep your whole team up to date. But normally it's like, how do you tell everybody something's changed without sending out emails, without making people reread documents, all that kind of stuff. And so being able to highlight something quickly is really important.
Correct.
And then just to maybe highlight a little bit of the reporting there, Vasana.
So when an agent gets an error, we have a lot of different customers that, will email us and say, hey, your call taker made an error. So what we do is I'll go into an activity and I will look really quickly to see when's the last time that person actually accessed procedure flow. And I scan it really quick if I'm looking for a particular person. This person went in it today. So let's take a look and see, did she access that flow that we got that complaint over? And you'd be able to click on it and it will say she went in to view the animal services flow. So if it's not something that she recently viewed, then I can go back to her and say, hey, you got an error on this. You might want to go back and review the flows. I do see that you're in there, which is great, but you need to review that animal services flow or the flow that courts, let's say, because you did make a mistake on it. So that's one part of
like
reporting.
quality assurance, where you can say, basically, did you use the playbook we gave you if they made a quality mistake? And then where did they go, within procedure flow when they were doing that call?
Correct. And then we have the most viewed flows that we can go into. As you can see, it's broken down. Of course, customer service 311 is the highest. But we also look at this and say, okay, what do we need to change? You know, what's in some of these are maybe we don't need these many flows anymore. Maybe we need to change it up. A lot of our flows are similar or newer. We've had a lot of changes in the city. But as you could see, you could tell, you know, the most frequently viewed flows, which right now seems to be our 311 call center, which is, you know, the biggest department that we carry for. So.
Yeah. And yeah, we would say kind of like, if you look at that list quickly and say, these hotspot areas should probably be invested in the most. And then if you got low usage spots, you might prune it back, or, you know, if it's seasonal, you might archive it for a while or that kind of thing.
Correct.
Yeah. And then the last one there, I think, is just, are people looking at their changes or not, right? And so
Yes.
we won't get anybody in trouble there on that one today, but you, you can see.
I'm sure there's quite a few in there.
Yeah. And that, you know, you get an idea, you push a change out there, and then you can tell whether or not somebody's reviewing their changes. For some people, that's important. For some people, it might not. Maybe they just use the flows in a live sense, or maybe for a certain department, they do need to really go ahead and make sure that they're reviewing them all the time. And then the team leads can use that to manage that. We have some of our customers as well that are taking the reporting data, all the activity and clicks, and feeding it into a bigger, like a BI program that allows them to carve that up and then make decisions based on where does everybody slow down the most, you know, or different types of data that you want to get from that helps you bring in continuous improvement to your organization too. So for anybody on the panel here, and I might even open it up in the chat there a little bit, does anybody have any questions or want to see anything else from this before we switch over to having a little bit more of a discussion? Or Vasana, is there anything else that you wanted to show us?
Not right off the bat. I just think it's it's great. I love the flows. It walks everybody through everything. So our errors went down, our training was cut in half because the agents were able to pull this up quickly and, you know, be able to route the call where it needed to go. So it's a great tool to have. Very easy to use as well.
Yeah.
What did you do previously to procedure flow? How did you sort of manage SOP, you know, your SOP?
So we had the lots of paper. We had a book. People used to call it the Bible of the service request. And we would print every single thing out. Every department we would print. And then, of course, every class, you start a new class, so you print a new book, right? So over 400 SRs, I can't even begin to tell you how much paper that used. So now we don't print at all. Everything is done digitally through procedure flow. So all of our training is done using procedure flow. We don't print anything. If they want something changed, they can request a change. But other than that, we rely heavily on procedure flow and making updates as they happen so that we don't have a lag and people aren't trying to find or getting old information.
Yep.
Great.
And
thank you.
I think everybody sort of has like a nickname for their reference guide.
Yes.
Joe, did you guys have one too?
Yeah, we have what we call the ref, which is basically a reference manual that we were using, as well as we also use paper as well. You know, depending on the age groups of your employees, a lot of people are really attached to paper. So you have to figure out how do you detach them from that to make sure that they're up to the most current versions of what your policies are.
We had to do cold turkey. So we went around and we implemented procedure flow and we said, all right, give us your paper. And, you know, you have a few that had a really hard time with that because we do have a lot of seasoned agents. But now they're used to it. And it's really cool to have to say, you know what? I don't need that paper anymore. I have confidence in this. So I think as our confidence gets better with navigating and knowing how to find it and requesting changes, it's a great tool.
Yeah, I noted there too, when you brought up your activity list, like there was a bunch of, I'm just checking the date, but October the 20th, I saw that many times. And so, you know, we find in general, we would say 80+% of the agents voluntarily use procedure flow and have it up. one of you can star flows as well. I don't know if you want to demonstrate that, Vasana. Just there's a star beside the title at the top there. And when they click on that, it adds it to their left-hand list. And so then they can jump around quickly, or they can search and jump to things quickly that way as well. So it becomes a really quick reference guide for just zooming around. So they're in there all the time, be it looking at the changes that are happening or actually using it to process their stuff. Joe, in your case, you guys had a unionized environment, right? And
Right.
you couldn't just go cold turkey, I assume, on the ref. And how did that transition happen for you guys? How did you manage that?
Well, one of the things that we had to make sure that we were doing was really looking at the approach. And our approach, just like Jeff was saying, was really looking at our SOP and seeing were we actually staying consistent with policy and procedure, right? So our whole approach wasn't to reduce training time, wasn't to do anything in relationship to the employee. It was really to try to get consistency in the approach for better customer experience.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that everybody was following the same rules and policies, making sure that they were giving every customer the same type of service. So that was our number one point. So in selling it to the local, it was really letting them know that their working conditions weren't going to change. It was just an added tool. And we never took away the ref. It became a supplement to it. And we let the employees themselves migrate to what was easier for them.
Okay. And so now you're 3 years in. How's that gone for everyone?
So now, to just speak from a local term, whenever we have issues with employees, and we talk about procedure flow and them using the tools that we do provide them, they're on board with it. They say, well, if you're not using the tools, we need to make sure what is it that we need to provide you to make sure that you're performing the duties you need to perform. So they've really come on board with supporting what we're doing here. And again, we haven't actually gotten rid of the the reference piece yet, but it is coming slowly to a halt because that is still positioned on a server that we actually house, which we're really trying to get to a cloud-based solutions for a lot of different things. So
Awesome.
This was our first attempt to go to cloud-based, and we kept our fingers crossed, and it worked out perfect.
Awesome. Also mentioned there as well, just so everybody knows, that Procedure Flow has an offline backup capability. So what we call, I have a T-shirt that we made for the the rollout, but basically says 100% uptime, because you can have that HTML file ready to go in a down situation, whether that's the internet, us, you guys. One of our customers, we ended up on a blacklist by accident with the IT group, and so they can just flip over, get that resolved, and then come back to. So you're covered. Like from a cloud, I know cloud can be scary, but we've built mitigation for that as well. So we're now into the discussion piece, and if anybody has questions that they want to put into the chat, you're welcome to do that. We have some questions lined up for each one of the panelists here that we're going to roll through. I want to throw one out there just right away that anybody can answer, both in terms of what Donna, maybe you've seen with your clients, Jeff, but especially Vasana and Joe. When COVID hit and we had to do some stuff from home, or you had to start thinking about remote, both be it virtual training or support or consistency, what have you. You guys at that point already had Procedure Flow set up. What was that transition like for you guys? Like how did that play out for you?
So I can go first on that one. So it was huge for us because of the fact that, again, our other reference manual was set on a server internally. So for us to transition to a telecommuting piece, it was definitely a challenge for us to get all our employees with the equipment to take home and to make sure that they were having all the tools that they needed over there. So Procedure Flow was huge in letting us make sure that they had all the equipment there. Now, again, we still give out like hard copy paper, that people have a tendency to want to hold on to a manual. But again, flipping through those tabs isn't customer friendly. So we needed something for them to be able to access when a customer asked them that difficult question, and to see if before they went to a lead line or to go after some help, to see what they were looking at. So it gave us the ability to make sure that when we took the training to an offsite place, that we were able to have some accountability in there. what are they checking on? What are they looking on? So we utilize those reports a lot.
Okay, that's great.
We actually had a customer, a large school district, that when everything went virtual, their help desk was overwhelmed with calls, and it was calls that they weren't used to answering because people were using things from home. So the process was different. There were a lot of differences, and they literally had a war room of all of their director levels that were on a Teams conference call all day, every day, in order to assist their help desk in answering those questions or resolving those issues. They were able to go to procedure flow and wean off of that because the help desk then had the information that they needed. It was readily handy. So that was kind of an exciting transition to watch.
Awesome. Yeah, so that war room thing was they were able to go back to doing other important
Yeah.
tasks. Yep, and they could be independent. Cool. Fazana, how about you guys? What happened with you? Did everybody still have to keep coming to the bunker there in Dallas, or?
No, we sent about 30 to 40 folks home. It was really easy as long as we had the equipment. We didn't have to worry about anything else. They had procedure flow already on. We updated our flows to reflect anything COVID related. So we created a COVID flow. If they had any kind of questions, all they would have to do is click on that flow. We made it the top one, so they didn't have to dig for it. And then we also started taking vaccine calls for the county. So they threw an extra layer on top of us as well. But again, we just created a flow that said county calls. This is the information you're giving out. And then a separate flow for anybody that would have called 311. So equipment was probably the hardest thing to settle up. But once we did that, we were golden.
Awesome. And perfect. That's great. Anybody else want to make any comments on COVID before we leave that?
Jump in. Oh, sorry.
mean,
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, because not procedure flow specific, but we saw a tremendous increase in leveraging of our cloud-based call center product, which just enabled kind of call centers to do that immediate spin up to cloud from what had previously been on-prem. So they were able to have distributed remote call centers with really with just having sort of a computer and an internet connection and a headset as the hardware. So that was just a trend that we saw from a lot of large states, particularly call centers dealing with COVID related benefits requests, unemployment insurance, et cetera.
Awesome. And Angelique, you had something you want to say?
Yes, I was just going to add very quickly, and it may kind of roll into the question that we have in the chat, where Lawrence asked about your seasoned agents and sometimes where people may not be as excited about adopting something new. But exactly what we're talking about is kind of what lends itself to being open and to being flexible. A lot of times, something that's very important to me that I talk about in different spaces is valuing the internal customer just as much as you value and study the external customer. And so in understanding the internal customer, you want to acknowledge the fact that they bring a lot to the table. They know a lot, and you want to actually capitalize on what those seasoned agents know and now roll it into this process. So now when we talk about COVID, who knew that anything like this was going to come about? And so it's understanding that changes can come that we may not expect. We don't know what's going to happen, but being able to be flexible and adaptable and taking those seasoned agents and showing them that they are a big part of being able to do that turn and do that flip when different things happen and come up.
Yeah, we've had a number of customers like Wyndham Worldwide, for instance, where they create the people that want to stay around and do that job for a long time and they become really seasoned. They basically make them part of that approval team for the changes. And so they bring the changes, they work on them together, and it gives them like an elite status, that they can be part of that club basically. And so that's another way to bring it. As soon as they make their first change and it gets published, it's like all of a sudden you have ownership in it, and then they're in there more, and they don't want people moving their cheese, and like it ends up really cool. So I'm off COVID now. Vasana, you had mentioned just a little bit at the end there, but I don't want to understate the impact, the ROI. Can you just sort of share through? I have a few bullet points here, but training impact, some of your more challenging SRs, like how the impact was like for you guys on that. And then maybe just talk a little bit about, you've got procedure flow in place. What's new? What are you guys thinking about in terms of what's next, and what other challenges are you trying to solve?
So our training was a bit of a heartache for us. We would hire in 10 to 15 people, and then training would be 8 weeks long. So it would take us a while to get everybody on the phones. Halfway through training, some of them would quit, and we had invested all this time and effort. So when we started using procedure flow, our training went from 8 weeks to 4 weeks, because everything is digital now. They can click on it. They don't have to worry about the paper. So it's worked out really, really well. We had animal services was one of our heaviest hitters. There's a lot of changes within our animal services department, a lot of code compliance issues. So that was a really tough flow. But now that we can update quickly and animal services has access, we actually gave animal services access to update their flows as well.
Okay.
So if they see something wrong, the department itself can go in and update. So
Nice.
it kind of gives us, a partnership with the departments to let them know, hey, you're accountable for this too, right? So if you see a change that has to be made, we can change it together, hit approve, and the agents get it. And it's cut down tremendously on our agent errors as well.
That's awesome.
Now that we've implemented procedure flow, we have a new call center software that we're trying to implement. So that's the next biggest step for us. And of course, getting staffed up. We've felt a little bit of the hurt from the labor shortages. So getting staffed up and implementing our software, and keeping up with the changing times of making sure everybody and everything is in procedure flow the way we need it to be.
Okay, awesome. Do you mind sharing is it a cloud-based telephony that you're going to? Is that the goal?
It is. We've adopted or implemented Presidio, which is Calabrio, Upstream Works. Can't think of the other piece of it right now. But yes, it's all web-based, which is great. It's just now getting everybody on board and logging in and making sure your IVR is functioning. But yeah, that's the next big step.
Awesome. Well, good luck with that. Joe, just kind of maybe we'll pick on you for a little bit. If you would tell us maybe just a little bit of your journey on, like, you've been in it for 3 years. So how has this impacted you guys? New employee onboarding, just like your journey of setting it up, what impact that's had, a little bit of before and after. Why don't you share with us a little bit?
Right. So, we've had some challenges at our department, probably, stemming back to, almost 10 years ago. And what we found that we really needed to have a more robust training environment. So we developed the Customer Experience Academy. And then from there, we started making sure that we were understanding what the needs of our employees were so they could actually serve the customer. So in that, we found that a lot of the different sections before we merged all these areas all had everything just in binders. They were training from old material. They were training inconsistencies from one unit to another. So it was really us trying to figure out how to put all those pieces together. So in utilizing our old reference material, it was real resource heavy. We had to make sure that we were going through everything, how one things were connecting to the other. And it was really hard to keep up to date based on how many people we had managing that piece. Our classes come a little bit larger than they used to before. Before we used to hire 10, 15 people at a time. We've hired classes up to 80 people at a time now. And we're doing it with the basis of knowing how to not necessarily reduce the training time, because, for our job classifications are civil service. So they have an infinite amount of time that they're going to actually be under a probationary period. So we don't necessarily want to push them through. And we do a lot of different things for not only water and power, but we do the sanitation and the trash pickup, and we bill everything together on one bill. So we want to make sure that our reps know how to talk to every part of that. And then we also want to make sure that we're educating our reps that when they do get on the phone with the customer, that they're not only looking at their current problems, that they're looking at any other problems that they might foresee, because we don't want to necessarily have that same customer calling back every other month. So it was really important for us not only to give them the process and procedures that would be available to them, but also tell them what are the programs we have eligible for them. What's going to help them conserve? What's going to help them move to those areas that they want to? Some stuff there is an upfront cost, some stuff there isn't. But and those are always changing based on what type of funding we have. So it was really important that we were doing that. And that's what we were able to kind of transition to. And we started off really just wanting to focus on the call center, because initially we had, before some of our issues were coming up, we had about 150 people in the call center. Right now we have about 500. So it's a huge call center. And, for our organization, just in customer service, it's about 1,100 people. So we're really trying to transition that piece to where it's not a call center tool anymore. We're transitioning over to our billing area. What we found is that as more people find out about it, they're saying, hey, what is this tool I hear people are using? How do we get it? And that's where, we went through our last update to make sure that we could actually push it throughout the organization, not just in customer service.
Awesome. I was going to ask you sort of like, I was curious, as you guys expanded your use of it and sort of saw what you could do with these, small hyperlink flowcharts and organizing information in this way, have you thought about other departments or expansions outside of contact center, and maybe just chat a little bit about what you see as some opportunities maybe beyond just the strict customer service piece?
Oh, definitely. What we've done is that, I do have some experience in the field, and what we realize is that in the training in the field is no different than clerical.
Sure.
Even though they're out there on their own, they do carry handheld laptops. So they do have access to those procedures if they're wondering, what is this meter actually, what is the capabilities for me to actually service this meter? Is it, do I have the skill sets to do it, or does somebody else have to come out here and do it?
Yeah.
So it's all part of that same training. And another thing that we noticed too, is that with a lot of our dynamics changing administratively, that we find it that, we could easily put the administrative part on the procedure flow as well. How you approach an employees, whether it's through discipline, EEO, safety, whatever it is. So there's a lot of different opportunities here. And those are the things that we really want to work on as far as moving into those other areas. We have had a whole lot of interest, and for our end, it's really resourcing. Like everybody else, it's hard to keep people employed, and then it's hard to actually, when you're going through a lot of attrition, that people are moving up and getting promoted, which is a good thing. How do you make sure that you're keeping all those people in place that are actually handling these areas for us? Because again, we're a union-based shop, and we have what we call a joint labor management piece, to where any training and safety position is actually be negotiated with labor. So this is part of that piece. So it was real important for us not only to bring it on easily and get the buy-in there, but also make sure that they know how important it is to keep it resourced.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would echo too. We have a large appliance, a company that develops appliances that are probably in your home. And they used it initially for field tech guys. The idea is they have a laptop or an iPad or whatever in the truck, and it's everything from take your boots off at the door, how to greet the customer, et cetera. And that used to be like in a PDF, and it was not being used. Their business partners were not being able to take advantage of that. And now they're able to basically just, flow through that information, a lot of it conditional information, very, very quickly. So it's great. Thanks, Joe. Anything you want to add in there before I jump over to letting Donna share a little bit about from what her clients are up to?
I think we kind of captured most of that stuff. Like I said, I think that our biggest win with procedure flow was really the ability to take something home with them that was up to date. And what I mean by that is that our trainees constantly give us feedback that says, yeah, we're sitting in class at 8 hours learning, but when we get home, we really only have a book to look at,
right?
And we're struggling with that piece. So providing them with a procedure flow that they could actually go through, click on, look at those different, flows that go, subflows and stuff like that, really was a supplement to them that they needed. So it was definitely well appreciated.
That's awesome. That's great. And I often, when I'm trying to explain procedure flow to people, I'll use when you think about what a document is, it's really on your computer. a document is a representation of a piece of paper, right? It's what you can fit on 11 by 8 inches. And then it's just this continuous stream of pages. And when a customer calls in, it's not a linear experience. It's not like you can read the document end to end and help that customer in that linear way. The experiences, the scenarios, the exceptions, they're all conditional and they're non-linear. And so you really need a way to organize your information in a way that is non-linear, right? And so that giving them that support to design the scenarios and the exceptions is really what procedure flow is all about there. Donna, we want to give you some time here. You've been working with some clients. Donna's a partner. She goes out and does consulting, of course. And so you have this broad view of lots of different client sites and challenges that people are going through. So on your end, how is procedure flow helping with operational excellence? What's your vantage point on that? What are some of the biggest challenges that folks are facing? And then there's a little bonus thing at the end that I want to talk about, because Sue told me that apparently procedure flow was your idea and we stole it from you. So we're going to talk about that later. But
Yeah.
So maybe you can harp on that as well. But so yeah, let us know, what are you thinking?
Well, I'll tell you, I love procedure flow because I'm all about impact. It's one thing to sell a product or sell an application, but then if you don't see an impact, or if it takes forever to make an impact, you've really done nothing. What I love about procedure flow is you see almost an immediate impact. Mm-hmm. We've talked a lot about reducing training time, but what I love is the fact that it's not just a reduction in training time, it's an increase in accuracy. Mm-hmm. Where you don't have people calling over and over again with the same questions and getting a different response from an agent every time. Right. You don't have a situation where your volume is 5 times as heavy because people are trying to call back to get items resolved. Right. They're literally walked through it literally walks through the agents question by question by question and brings them to where the customer needs to be. Without them, as you said, I love the way you put it, Mike. I thought that was great. Reading a linear piece of paper and having to read through all of it to get to the customer issue. Whereas procedure flow just takes you to that customer issue step by step. So there are no forgotten critical questions. Mm-hmm. And that the agent finds out 5 minutes, 7 minutes into the call that they forgot to ask that at the beginning. And now, oh, by the way, this isn't even our customer. Right. So you've wasted that time. So what I've found is it actually reduces average handle time, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. It can reduce call volume because you're not getting those repeat calls. And those are some of the things that my customers love, not to mention the reporting aspect that lets you know when an agent needs a little refresher on a particular process, because you're not pulling the person offline and then making them go through the entire training course. No, I need you to review this process, and I need you to use procedure flow for this process consistently, and I can hold you accountable for that. Yeah. So those are some of the ways that I have seen that procedure flow has changed the entire really environment and culture of call centers that we've worked with, because it even after a while, you see it changing the attitudes of the employees, because excellence becomes attainable. I always say, I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm a little passionate. So you'll just have to.
I love it.
Just shut me off, turn off my mic when I need to stop. No, but what I was saying is, I always say no one comes to work or starts a job to do a bad job.
No.
Everyone comes with the idea that I'm going to do great at this. Mm-hmm. It's when they're faced with repeated failure and they lose the confidence that they can do well, that they start coming to work to collect a check. Yeah. You start seeing absenteeism, you start seeing attrition, which contact centers, that's huge. Procedure flow helps maintain that attitude, that confidence that they can be successful in what they're doing. So
yeah. I love that, Donna. I used to work in tech support, and if one guy was sick or he had to be with his kids at daycare or something like that, the workload then fell on the rest of us. And it's crazy how hot it can get in the kitchen when just a couple of people are out, and all of a sudden you're backfilling, and you're trying to reschedule everybody. And I 100% agree that I would say we count on average that a call center agent has to know how to do between 500 and 2,000 different kind of call types. You can't train that in 4 weeks, 8 weeks. You can't. You have to just learn by experience. So it takes months to get that variety of calls to become an expert. And then we know they get promoted, they get managed out, or they're just saving up for college. So you don't have a long time with them. And so you really have to do a better job of supporting them with real-time, scenario exception guidance. And confidence is one of the things we hear the most. And I've done the work. I've been the deer in the headlights. I've not known how to help the customer. I'm looking around, everyone else is on the phone and they can't help me. And you freeze and the customer's pissed, and it's tough, right? So it's really, really important to have confidence. I know we're running out of time. I want to make sure Jeff gets a chance to share, because he's got a really wide vantage point with AWS to see, what's going on around the world, really. But in terms of where you're focused, Jeff, give us a little bit of idea about what public utilities are the biggest challenges are with customer experience, generally speaking, kind of like where's the current state of affairs. So what, if you were to suggest, what's the number 1, 2 thing that you would recommend somebody do if they came to you and asked you for your advice? And then from a continuous improvement perspective, what are some of the general trends that are out there? And yeah, just sprinkle us with your view.
Yeah, sure. I'll say a few things. I also just want to say I really like that I like the discussion around, it's this concept of technology should elevate the human experience. And so it includes the customers, but also the employees of the enterprise, and also their stakeholders. I don't know. I just think it's a really important point. Everybody has to benefit from these modern cloud technologies. But if I just had one thing to tell somebody, and this is what I've seen a lot of interest in and a lot of adoption of, but definitely chatbots and digital voice assistants are being adopted widely. If you think about, if you just sort of level set around what are people reaching out to a utility or a government end customer or 311 about, it's typically going to fall into one of 4 buckets. It's going to be referrals. You've actually reached the wrong place. Let me get you to the right place. Could be a federal department. And then the bulk of it's going to be information requests. And then you have your service request issuance, which is asking for things to be done in the right of way and in the public space, and then the transactional activity where there's some sort of request coming from a business or an individual, application for something, a grant, a benefit, a payment, a license, a permit, et cetera. But so much of the volume in call centers or in contact centers is information. And so if you can take, if you can look at the digital voice assistants, which are, some of the benefits are that they're always on. They don't take a break. They're 24/7. They're relatively easy to engage and access, just because people are used to engaging with Q&A bots or digital voice assistants in their private life. They tend to be really cost effective to set up. You can access them through multiple engagement channels. So you maybe could come in off of social media or off of text. And then, I think Donna might have mentioned this, but you get that really consistent experience, and there's a low chance of human error. The robot is going to give the same answer, 1 time or 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. So I guess I would say that's, like, at a high level, those would be that would be the first thing that I would suggest, because then you're just, the goal basically is give the customer the information they want when they want it, digitize, automate, render to self-service as much as you can, and then you free up, you liberate resources from the folks who are working in the call center, the contact center, wherever they're distributed throughout the organization, so they can focus on kind of higher order activity as opposed to answering that, one question a 1,000 times.
100%. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So I think that kind of wraps up. Those are all the questions that I had. Was there anything that anybody else wanted to throw in just before we wrap up here?
There are a couple of questions in the chat, Mike. I was typing up an answer. I don't know if you want to take those.
Well, I did see there was one I wanted to address because like Lawrence was mentioning that there's maybe agents that have more experience, they already know what they're doing, and then that can be a challenge. So I mean, that's not unique to procedure flow. That's a pervasive challenge that contact centers are going to have. My personal thoughts on that, both from experience watching customers and just my general thoughts on it, are that there's kind of three phases of being an agent as it pertains to knowledge management and participation. The first is you literally have no idea what you're doing. It's your first call, and you go box by box through procedure flow. So that just kind of makes sense. It's system clicks. It's where do I go? What do I do? What scenario am I in? If you do that 5, 6, 7 times, for instance, like verification, that kind of thing, you're not going to have to go into that box anymore. You're going to skip over it unless you see a change notification. You go in, you review the change notification. Listen, everybody's making a mistake here. We're going to change this, COVID, this, that, the other thing. And you're just aware. So once a day, twice a day, you're in there looking at alerts for changes to the process. The second phase, you use it for things that are infrequent. Like maybe you only get that kind of call twice in your life and you just open it up, you use it. And so that between 500 and 2,000 different call types, there's no way you're not going to get a couple of times a day some infrequency calls, and you just go in there, get your reference guide for that. There's drug charts, there's acronym descriptions, all links out to important tools. So it's really an important jump point for all the important resources that you need. And then third phase, like you're a know-it-all, you know everything, and you're not going to quit at the 12-month mark. You're not going to be replaced with a new person. You're going to stick around. Well, that's great. If that person has perfect quality, they don't need to be in procedure flow other than the change notifications. And then figure out, like, maybe that person needs a promotion. Maybe they need to be moved around. Maybe they need some new challenges or what have you. And so if you can't do that, then it's fine, as long as they have really, really great quality. So I don't believe that. I think that really experienced people become a liability because they don't morph with the changing processes and the regulations. And so I think they need to be in there and active. And so what our customers will often do is use the reporting section to see who's looking at their change notifications, who isn't. The report goes out to the team leads, and then the team leads come down on them and say, look, everything's not the same. We do different things now, and you need to review these. And so the hammer comes down. So there's a little bit of policing. There's a little bit of ownership, getting them involved with the changes, getting some participatory model in there. But really, if there's no turnover and there's no training, then great, you have an amazing center. You know what I mean? Like, make sure you're being consistent, make sure everybody's doing the same thing and not just off going rogue, and they are an expert, but they're all doing different things. So Lawrence, I don't know if that's helpful in terms of our response, but I just wanted to sort of try to help with your question there. Was there another one you saw, Donna, that needed to be responded to? Or?
Yes, Claudia was asking about how long it takes to design the flow, add content as a new client. So
yeah, I'll encourage everybody to go to our website, procedureflow.com. A little chat bubble will pop up, and it'll hit you with Dakota or one of our great sales guys, and just set up a demo, have a private time where you can ask some questions. They'll take you through everything you need to know about getting set up, getting your first stuff mapped in. In a general sense, I will say it's very fast. So half the time it takes to train, if you've got a 4-week training classroom strictly, it should be about 2 weeks of effort, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So, maybe 80 hours of effort to get all your material in, right? We use the Pareto rule. What are your most challenging calls? You take the most volume on, prioritize that list, get a few done, roll it out. People are immediately using it, as Donna mentioned before, and then you just add the other ones over the course of the next couple months. And so I think our customers here, Vasana and Joe would be able to talk to that a little bit in terms of it's fairly quick to get your stuff in there. Put your heavy hitters in first. And so that, and there was another question earlier, I think, about like, how hard is it? Well, you draft, edit, drag and drop. There's no IT lift at all. And so it really, anybody should be able to just jump in there and make some flows. I hope I'm not overstating that. Basana, keep me honest. Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple to get the framework in there. What you have to do is make sure that your SMEs are going over it to making sure there aren't steps that are left out. Because a lot of times when you're building those things, it's the simplest thing that you don't realize that could take you on a forked path. So for us, we got foundational pieces in there, and then we realized after implementing a little bit, and that was some of the stuff that gets people engaged in it and saying, well, they love to tell you you're wrong, right? So that's not right, so then you're saying, okay, well, help us then. And then they start to give you that feedback. And so that creates the engagement.
One of our telco companies did a prove you're a pro, and they have like a gift card for coffee or whatever. And you go in and you find everything that's wrong in the flows and you tell everybody about it. And whoever finds the most things wrong, they get a prize. So you could, that everybody loves to point out, everybody loves to be a critic. Again, just visit our website, talk to our folks. With the last 2 minutes here, I just want to say thank you. I know everybody's super busy, especially with all the changes we've had to make with COVID and whatnot. And Basana's rolling out a new, telephony software. And I really, really, really appreciate you guys being with us, taking the time. Everybody joining in, listening. Thank you for being with us and sticking it out with us for the whole hour. And this will be recorded. We're going to drop it afterwards with the link. So if you wanted to watch it again or see a certain part or share it with a friend, you'll be able to do that. So thank you guys so much. And hopefully we can meet up live at some point when COVID's over, do some live events and shake hands at trade shows and all that good stuff. So until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Peace out, everybody.